friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren, you may also call me Lo, and today I'm bringing you the second installment of my Colors Choose My TBR vlog, in which I read 3 books based on a color that's either chosen by me or by somebody else. And in this vlog, I'm going to read purple books. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well, and let's get on into it. So you may know that the first episode of this series was me reading red books. That was a color I chose. And I asked people to comment in that video what color I should do next, and my friend Heather suggested purple, and she was the first one to comment. So I'm going with that one, but I do plan to work my way through all of those comments. Purple is actually really interesting because surprisingly I don't have many purple books on my TBR. So unlike the red books where I had a big stack of all my red books and chose from that, I really don't have that many options. Purple also made me realize that I might not be able to recognize colors as well as I thought I could. So like, is this purple? Is this purple? I don't know, they're bluish. So if I really narrow it down to books that I'm confident are purple, there really are only 3 because the rest of them are sequels in series that I haven't started yet. So these are the books. The first one is clearly purple. This is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite authors. I've read The Way of Kings and Elantris, and I guess that's it, but both of those were 5 stars, so I have a lot of confidence that I'll like this. I'm really interested to see what Brandon Sanderson's YA is like, and this is clearly purple, so very stoked about this one. The next one I'm going to read for this vlog is Comfort Me with Apples. Listen, the flowers on this are purple, and if you open up the book, it's purple. This is a purple book. So I'm reading this one. It's quite short, it's a thriller, and I've been meaning to read it for a little while, so I'm happy to get this one off of my list. And my final book for this vlog is going to be Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. This is a book I'm very excited about as well, and I know the cover's blue, but the naked book is entirely purple, so we're going with it. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to start reading. I don't really know which book I'm going to start with at this point. It is as much a mystery to me as it is to you, but I will see you in a little bit with an update. Hello! So I am so excited to start this vlog and talk about this book because I'm absolutely loving it. This is going so well so far. So I started Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and this book, y'all, this book is so good. I'm only, I want to say like 100 pages. I'm 106 pages into this book, and I love Brandon Sanderson so much. So the thing that Brandon Sanderson is amazing at, in my opinion, is world building, because a lot of the time when you start a fantasy book or sci-fi book, there's like 100 pages or more of world building where like not a lot is happening with the characters, there's not a lot of plot going on, it's just context for the world that you're reading about. And while I love fantasy books and that's not a deal breaker for me, Brandon Sanderson is so good at just like dropping you in the plot of the story. The story starts from page 1, and then he gives you like little glimpses and like little details of the world building as you go. He basically gives you what's necessary to understand the story, and you just kind of like figure it out for yourself. And I just think he's so masterful at doing that, and he did that in the other 2 books that I've read. So I've read Elantris and The Way of Kings, both of which are adult fantasy books. This is a YA sci-fi book. So while he does the world building excellently in this book, in my opinion, just like he does in those 2, I also gave both of those books 5 stars, I should say. This book's very different. This book's very different because it's obviously YA sci-fi, but nonetheless, I'm really enjoying the story. And in the first 100 pages, so much has happened. There's been like a full battle scene. There's been like really heartbreaking, disappointing moments. There's also been very hopeful, joyful moments. And I'm just like, I would be surprised if I didn't give this 5 stars, but I guess that that's kind of a crazy thing to say. when you're 100 pages into a 500-page book, but yeah, so far so good with this one. So this book follows our main character, Spensa, and Spensa lives on a planet that's constantly under attack by this alien species called the Krell. And on her planet there are fighter pilots who basically protect the civilization on this planet from destruction by the Krell. And they're considered like the heroes of this society. They're kind of like the most valuable, or at least in Spence's mind, they're the most valuable, but they're certainly the most like prestigious workers in this society. And Spensa dreams of becoming a fighter pilot. However, she faces significant barriers to kind of following this dream of hers because her father was a fighter pilot who deserted his team in the middle of a battle and was labeled a coward. He also died in that battle. And Spensa and her family are basically associated with a coward now, and a coward is pretty much the worst thing you could possibly be in this society. So they aren't treated very well, they can't work normal jobs, and Spensa is like bullied and like picked on a lot, and it seems like the people who run the flight school do not want anything to do with her. So that's kind of what's happened for now. I don't know how much more detail I'll give because I really just want people to like read this book and I don't want to spoil it in any way. But yeah, so far so good. I'm in my like normal filming spot mostly because I just filmed my mid-year book freakout tag and I'm wearing makeup and I figured I might as well milk that for all it's worth. But I will update you a little bit farther into the book. I don't know exactly when I will update you, but I will if something dramatic happens, for sure. This vlog around like the 300 page mark, but I started doing reading sprints with Sydney this morning, link to her channel down below, and then after sprints with Sydney I started doing sprints on Michelle's channel, link also down below. I'm like in an absolute chokehold over this book. Something crazy just happened, and something else that's like really interesting about Brandon Sanderson is that he's not afraid to put his characters in bad situations, and he's not afraid of like letting bad things happen to his characters, which for me, I really like because it actually feels very, very high stakes. So every time there's like a battle scene in this book, like someone could very well die. Like it's happened, it will probably continue to happen, and it just feels so high stakes and so intense. And there are several like kind of mysteries in this book, and some of them are starting to kind of be resolved, but I'm now on page 378, chapter 40, and there are about 100 pages left, a little over 100 pages left, and I think some of those mysteries are going to kind of wrap up and resolve in these next 100 pages, and I'm just like, I can't stop reading this book. Like every spare second I've had today, I've read, but I am on my lunch break and I have a lot of work to do this afternoon, so I probably won't get to finish it, but I plan to finish it tonight. Sean and I are also having a dinner party tonight with some of our friends, but like my biggest priority is finishing this book. So I will definitely update you tomorrow with my like super final thoughts, but I can tell you right now that this is a 5-star book. It just is. I already ordered the next book, Starsight, and that should come on Friday, and I don't know when I'll actually pick it up, but I hope to pick it up very, very soon. So yeah, that's the update for now. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do more throughout this book, but once I hit like the 150 page mark or so, it was just like, I had to know what happened next, and it's been really, really hard to like take a pause, take a breather, and update. So that's what's going on. I will see you tomorrow with my like final thoughts on this book. It is the next day and I have finished Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is a 5-star book. It just is. It definitely didn't pack as much of a punch at the end as I thought it would, but nonetheless, this book was amazing. Incredible. I loved every second of it. And the ending was such a like crazy cliffhanger. Although he kind of explains what's going on in the epilogue a little bit, it's still like I have so many questions. All of my theories were completely wrong. But I just had a fantastic time with this book. There are a lot of like little mysteries kind of weaved in throughout the book. And I think Sanderson does a really good job of giving you answers, but not all the answers. And yeah, I loved this so much. I am so tempted to just like read the next one as soon as it comes. It's supposed to come tomorrow, but I have other books to read for this vlog, so I probably should focus on those, and then I will return to the next book. But I absolutely love this. I highly recommend it if you like sci-fi. I'd even recommend it if you're a person who wants to start reading sci-fi but doesn't really know where to start. This was very like palatable in my opinion. Shout out to Mbot and Doomslug. They were the best characters in this book. I love the characters in this book, but they were the best characters in this book. Highly, highly recommend this one. It seems to me a really good place to start with Sanderson. I know that Sanderson's he has a couple of YA series, but the Mistborn trilogy is probably the most popular of them, I would say. And I haven't read that yet. I also heard that that's a really good kind of introduction to Brandon Sanderson if you haven't read any of his work. But I would argue that this is also a really good introduction, although it is different and he mostly writes fantasy, so if you want to dive into his fantasy, probably the Mistborn trilogy, but this was fantastic. I'm giving it a pretty easy 5-star rating. This was awesome. The next book in this vlog is Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine Valente. I just picked this up when I finished Skyward and remembered that I had read the first chapter of this in my Try a Chapter challenge, which I posted like months ago. So I have read the first chapter, which takes me to page 5. And once again, this book, once you take the dust jacket off, it's black, but the inside pages, I don't know what you call these, but they're purple. So I'm counting it for the purple vlog, and I'm hoping to just read this today. It's 103 pages, so I have less than 100 pages to go, and I think I will be able to finish this today. That's the goal. So I'm going to get started with this, but I'll see you very shortly, hopefully. Comfort Me with Apples last night, and I had such mixed feelings about this book when I finished it that I thought I just needed to kind of like sit on it, go to bed, think about it before I could really talk about it. But I think I'm ready now, although I'm still kind of processing. But I guess I'll just do that on camera because why not? So I don't think I gave a summary of this book yesterday, but this book follows a woman named Sophia who lives in kind of an exclusive community called Arcadia Gardens. And the first chapter of this book is a contract that the people who live in Arcadia Gardens have to sign in order to live there. So it's got like a bunch of rules basically. And I would say that the rules are very like stringent, and they emphasize kind of not sticking out. They emphasize conforming with everybody else when it comes to like the outside of your house, but also when it comes to kind of your behavior. And then the chapters go back and forth between Sophia's perspective and more rules that are in this contract. So Sophia is this woman who is happily married, but her husband is away a lot. And it seems like she lives a very limited life. She basically lives a very domestic life. So she's in charge of cooking and cleaning. She doesn't have a job, all of which is fine. And she's totally happy with this situation. But it seems like there are a lot of rules placed on her. Like she's not allowed to go out after dark, and she's not allowed to go in the basement because she could hurt herself. And it seems like she's just overly kind of protected. So she is super happy, super content with kind of the state of her life. Nothing in her life is unsatisfactory. However, she starts to discover little things that are out of place, out of the ordinary, and she lives this very routine life, right? So things start to be out of place, out of the ordinary, and she starts to discover kind of, I don't know, worrisome things. And as these things kind of add up, she starts to realize that her life isn't as perfect as she thought it was. And as this is going on, you also get more and more rules for living at Arcadia Gardens, which get more and more and more kind of strange and extreme. I can't say more than that. But this book was wild. So for the first probably half of it, I wasn't that into it. I was kind of like, okay, nothing's really happening. Sophia's kind of infuriating. And it wasn't until like probably 3/4 of the way through that I started to realize what was actually going on. And this book tricked me. Like the things that should have been red flags in the first half of the book just went right over my head. And when I got to the kind of plot twist, the like reveal of this book, I was like, holy shit, what a smart book. So I finished this book and was like, wow, like this is an incredibly intelligent book. And yeah, I just didn't know how to feel about it. Something really interesting about this book is that it's got a lot of kind of religious undertones, and it's got like biblical references in it. And I think that I personally grew up Catholic, so I picked up on those. But I'm curious to know if people who haven't really been exposed to the Bible would understand this book to the same degree. So I'm really curious about that. I'm gonna watch some more booktubers talk about it. But I have the hunch that if you haven't been exposed to the Bible at all, and you don't pick up on the references in here, that it may not be as good of a read or as impactful of a read. So I'm curious to know that. But I don't know. Last night I was literally, this is why I couldn't talk about it, I was waffling between like a 3.5 star because the first half of it wasn't great for me. And then I was like, is it a 4 star? Is it a 5 star? Because I think I might reread this. I don't know. I feel like I want to reread it just because I feel like there are so many things that I didn't pick up on at the beginning, and I kind of want to know what it would be like to read it knowing what happens at the end. But I don't know, it's not a book that gave me like a 5-star feeling, so to speak. So I think I'm probably going to settle on a 4.5. I guess you'll have to wait for my wrap up. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna settle on a 4.5 for this one because I think it's like a really, this is probably the most like mind-blowing book that I've read this year. It's 100 pages. I definitely recommend picking it up if it sounds like something that you would enjoy. It's definitely had like very mixed reviews. When I went on Goodreads to mark this as read, I noticed that people were either giving it like 4.5, 5 stars or like 2. So yeah, I think it's probably a little bit polarizing, but I thought it was incredibly interesting. It is a new day. I just want to do a quick update for Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I'm now a little bit over 100 pages in. Let me check. I'm at 114 pages. And this is a pretty long book. It's exactly 500 pages long. And we're following the Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Are we shocked? No. So the Moon Goddess is like a myth in this book, but I think is also a myth in Chinese mythology, but I might be wrong about that. But anyway, the Moon Goddess stole the elixir of immortality from her husband, who earned the elixir of immortality. And as a result, she obviously becomes immortal, but is banished to the moon, where she has to live for the rest of her immortal life. In this particular book, She actually was pregnant when she was banished, and she had a child on the moon while she was in exile. And we're following the daughter, whose name is Xingyan, and Xingyan grows up and around the age of 15 starts to kind of harness her powers, which her mother told her not to use, but she kind of experiments with them one day and bad things happen. So the Celestial Empress, who's like the ruler of the immortal people, comes and says that there has been like a shift in the energy on the moon, and she believes that the moon goddess is harboring a fugitive, which she sort of is. So Xingyan has to flee for her own safety, and she ends up fleeing to the Celestial Kingdom, where she becomes an attendant to a girl around her age who is just awful. And she realizes that her only way out of this life of servitude is to join this contest that the Crown Prince is putting on so that he can get a companion. And the companion is just like a person who will attend the classes of the Crown Prince and kind of be his like classmate and friend. And he happens to be the son of the Celestial Empress, who banished Xingyan's mother and is like semi after her. So far, oof, my arm's really tired. Okay, hold on. Okay, so far I'm really enjoying the plot of this book. I just struggled a little bit initially with the writing style. It's very lyrical, which I don't mind. I like lyrical writing, but I found the writing style in this to be very like elevated and almost formal in nature, which is kind of an odd juxtaposition with the fact that our main character is like 15. It's kind of weird. And it took me a little while to like get over it. But I'd say around like the 60% mark, I started to be pretty invested in the story, and the writing style started to bother me less and less. I'm pretty into it, and yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I don't really know where it's gonna go. I mean, I know that it's a fantasy romance, so I know it's gonna go there. I don't know exactly how. Things are happening. I'm interested in the plot. I really, really like the friendship between Xingyan and the Crown Prince, which is kind of unexpected, but really nice. I'm probably going to update once more before I finish this book. But I am really happy that the writing style ended up not being as big of a problem for me as I initially thought it was. At least for me, it got better. So that's good. I was kind of concerned at the beginning. More than halfway through Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I'm on page 282, and I'm really liking this. I think that, like I said in my last clip, the beginning of this book was really slow for me, but once I got used to the writing style and the plot picked up, I started to really enjoy it, and I've been reading really, really fast. So the last clip that you saw was actually yesterday, and now I'm more than halfway through this book. I have to say I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really glad I pushed through that first part that was kind of slow for me. I think the relationships in this book are really well developed and really like believable for me. And for a YA book, that like never happens. So I can confidently say I think that I'm liking this book more than any other YA fantasy I've ever read. That seems like a pretty lofty statement, but I think it's true. Like, I can't think of a YA fantasy where I liked the romances. Usually the romances, like, ruin YA fantasy for me. And I think the plot of this is really interesting. I like the way it's structured so far, and I'm having a great time. If I were to, like, make a guess, I'd say it's probably like 4.5 star. It might be a 5-star, but I just, at this point, don't quite feel like it's gonna hit the 5-star mark, but I definitely really like it. I definitely would recommend it for someone who maybe is like new to fantasy. I think this is a great beginner fantasy book. Yeah, I'm just enjoying it a lot. I think it's like, for the length of it, it's a pretty quick read, actually, which I wasn't really expecting. But I think I'm going to finish this in the next couple of days, which for me, for a 500-page book, reading it in a matter of like 4 days is pretty fast. This reading vlog is actually like very successful. I enjoyed all of the books a lot. And if I end up giving this one like a 4-star, that means that I didn't rate anything below 4 stars, which means I recommend highly all of the books in this vlog, which is amazing. All right, friends, I finished Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and unsurprisingly, I really, really enjoyed this book. I stand by my assertion that this is one of the best, if not the best, YA fantasy I've ever read. I just think the characters are really well developed in this. The relationships are really well developed. Everything's very believable. I just thought this veered a little bit from kind of what I would call like the YA fantasy formula of like characters going on a mission and then returning from that mission. I feel like that's often the premise. This book, I think, veered from that. It had more of an adult structure, I would say, if that makes sense. Yeah, I thought this was an excellent book. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. There were 2 things that like slightly bothered me about this, but overall, I'd really, really recommend it. So the first thing that kind of bothered me was the writing. If you watched this vlog all the way through, or at least the part where I've been talking about Daughter of the Moon Goddess, you know that I struggled with the writing in this book. And to me, the writing in this book is very reminiscent of like a woman in her like mid-40s. And our main character, I think, is supposed to be around 15 years old. She's immortal, but she's 15 nonetheless. And this book is written in first person, and it was just really hard for me to reconcile our main character and who she was with the way that this book was written. And I will say I eventually got used to it, although there were moments where the writing would bother me again. For the most part, it didn't bother me once I kind of became acclimated to it, I guess. The other thing is that the magic system in this is very, very vague. There were some like battle scenes where our main character would do some like incredible feat of magic that would, for all intents and purposes, like save her in this battle. And I'd be like, did you know you could do that? Because I didn't know you could do that. Or did we just conveniently write this into this battle scene so that you could make it out of it? I don't know. So that, you know, that kind of annoyed me. But overall, I think I can overlook the things that I didn't like about this book because it was ultimately a really great book. I really, really did enjoy this. I thought the ending was pretty good. I thought there were moments where I was like, everything is at stake, I'm stressed out, which I like in books. And overall, I'd really recommend this one. So I am going to land on a 4-star. And that means that I've read all the books for this vlog. So just to do a quick little overview. The first book that I read was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this a whopping 5 stars. Absolutely loved this, would recommend this to everybody. I think something that's interesting about this vlog is that I'd say this is a really, really good introductory sci-fi. I'd also say it's a really, really good introductory Brandon Sanderson book. Similarly, I'd say that this is a really good introductory fantasy. Would recommend it to people who are just diving into fantasy. In that way, I read 2 very like awesome introductory books for people who are just kind of delving into these genres. I'd recommend both of these very, very highly. And then I also read Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente, and I thought this was an incredibly thought-provoking book, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. So I'm pretty happy. I was kind of scared to like start this vlog because 2 of these are 500-page books. But I'm very proud of myself. I thought this was a very, very successful vlog. I definitely am really shocked that I didn't give anything below a 4-star. If you have been around my channel, you know that I give a lot of books 3 stars. I'm just kind of a harsh critic, if you will. But yeah, these were all excellent. I would definitely recommend all of them. If you've made it this far into this video, leave a purple emoji, any purple emoji you want, down below to let me know that you watched the entire thing. If you are new here, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I put out 1 bookish video every week, sometimes 2, if I can pull it off. If you're still here, thank you so much for being here. I always really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.